guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV. Well, I'm back on this podcast, this time with the chief football writer for the Sunday Times, and that's Jonathan Northcroft. And I want to say, Jonathan, I know you're in a cafe somewhere in London, I'm guessing, and I know that you're about to fly out somewhere. So this is going to be quick, but thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, Andy.
So this is going to be a quick fire. There's going to be 5-6 questions. We're going to keep it quick because we don't want to keep Jonathan any longer than he has to. So my first question to you, Johnny, is thoughts on the season so far in the Premier League?
Well, as someone that lives in Leicester and watches the club and takes my daughter there, it's been quite good locally. It's not quite been the season I expected. I did tip Liverpool to win the title, but that was on the basis that it was going to be a really, really close race, just like last year. My reason for doing so was simply I thought City were going to concentrate more on the Champions League, and it's really, really difficult to win 3 titles in a row. No one's ever really done it apart from Ferguson with the same club. So what I envisaged was City and Liverpool being neck and neck again, and Liverpool maybe shading it in the second half of the season. It hasn't been that way so far. I mean, Liverpool have been grinding and strong, just the way I thought they would be. That's how they were at the end of last season. The surprise has been City, but I guess it's been completely skewed by the injury to Laporte. Just a really fatal injury. I think for the team, it's left City with a really soft underbelly. I think that the attacking play has been wonderful. You look at the humiliation of Watford, even the game at Anfield. City were brilliant, but they've just got the soft centre, and you can't win the league doing that. I think from City's point of view, it's about getting through to January, getting Laporte back, maybe making a signing, and hoping there's still enough time to make up the gap. But I suspect there won't be. And what I didn't expect was I guess Leicester and Chelsea to be quite so good. I've been very impressed with Brendan Rodgers. I know the quality of the players, but the extent to which Leicester have been putting it together, and Jamie Vardy's kind of Indian summer is incredible. And Chelsea are much further on than I thought. Lampard has done such a good job. Some of those young players like Tammy Abraham have surprised me in how ready they are. And, them and Leicester are just wonderful watches. So it's made it a different season, a really interesting top 4. But there is that big gap at the top, and I'm not sure it's going to, I think it might get narrowed by City. But I think Liverpool, it really is theirs to lose now.
Yeah, I mean, we've been decimated by injuries. Obviously, we've got Ederson out, we've got Laporte out, we've lost Vincent Kompany, which is massive for the club.
And Andy, that was, sorry to interrupt you, mate.
No, it's all right.
My big question in the summer about City was about Vincent Kompany, because I couldn't understand how, given that Kompany came back into the team and was one of the crucial elements in winning the title in sort of forcing, with that personality and quality he's got, forcing City over the line, to then lose him and not replace him just seemed a very odd thing to me, and I still don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, me neither. I mean, we've not just lost when he's fit, and an absolutely incredible defender, but just I think the biggest loss has been him being around the club, setting standards, because we know what he's like. He's a leader. He leads by example. He doesn't stand any nonsense. If you listen to Micah Richards talking on BBC Radio 5 Live the other night on the Monday Night Football show with Kelly Coates and things, and he was saying he was frightened to death of him because he just discipline. This is how you do it, and I think we've lost a massive part of Vinny not being there, and there's nobody else I can see in the squad that replaces that anywhere near it. I mean, Fernandinho, English isn't his first language, even though he's an absolute leader. David Silva's the captain because it's his final season. We lost Fabian Delph, who was very, very vocal, but he wasn't really sort of a leader. We just haven't got it. We just have not got that.
That's right.
Pep's philosophy. Pep, I'm sure, loved him. I'm sure Pep wanted him to stay, but he obviously had the choice of Anderlecht. So I think it's a massive loss, and I think it's much bigger than just signing a centre back in the January transfer window. Next question. Well, we know it's going nowhere, but VAR, after last weekend in particular, as being a Man City fan, with the Liverpool game, if you had an option and you could choose right now, and it was solely your decision, would you say VAR is in or out, and why?
Oh, it's a great question. My instinct is to say out, but I think the reason I would actually say in is just to say that I think the rest of the world is decided to use this technology, and it's going to be used in the Champions League and so on. So I actually think to take it away from the Premier League would probably put English clubs at a disadvantage when they then went into competitions where it was being used. So that's almost become my only reason for keeping it now. The way it's been working has been a disappointment. I think I liked the idea initially because I thought referees need to have more information. You know, it's all about giving referees the same information that we get when we're watching on TV at home. So if that's the case, for the life of me, I can't understand why they're not using that information, why they're not going to the pitch side monitors and trying to look at the incidents that have been happening. Because a guy sitting in Stockley Park in his shorts can't make the decision. He's not on the pitch. He can't see, you know, the rules of football are so subjective. Handball, is it deliberate or not? Deliberate's a subjective concept. Is a foul, is a challenge reckless or not? Again, it's a subjective word. We're not talking about a black and white sport. We're talking about a subjective thing. And only the guy on the pitch who's got the evidence of actually seeing it with his own eyes can really make the decision. I think that guy should be then looking at the monitor and making the decision. And I really think that you know, the worst thing of all is what's happening for fans in the stadium, because we're not getting decisions correct. And at the same time, you know, the price is just not worth paying of supporters sitting there, excitement being put on pause, not knowing what's happening, feeling left out of the process, and then a decision's made that they don't understand. So at very least, we need to broadcast the audio that the referees and the communication going on between the VAR and the ref, so that everyone's in the loop, and we need the replays. I know Anfield and Old Trafford don't have big screens, but I'd suggest that so what? I'd say just the other clubs that have got big screens, you can play it on there. Got to find a way of involving the fans, and got to find a way of making the referee, putting them back in charge of the decisions, using it as a tool and not as something that's changing how things are refereed.
Well, I mean, that's basically, I mean, for me, I mean, it's taking the decision away from their on-field referee. And, you know, at the end of the day, if we always used to blame the referees, but now what we're doing is we're blaming some guy, other referee who's sat in a caravan somewhere in Stockley Park, and we're blaming him now, going, well, we don't know. Well, we're blaming him or we're blaming the ref. We don't know as fans. There's no recourse. There's no, explanation as to what actually happened on the day. So for me, I just think pitch-side monitors, they can be teeing up the replays whilst he's running over to it going, well, they can, Stockley Park could say, Michael Oliver, go over to the pitch side, monitor. They can be teeing up the images. By the time he gets there, he could have 3 or 4, views of what he's seen, and he can go, no, I'm sticking with my decision. At least then we can blame Michael Oliver and not go, we don't know who to blame because we have no idea. So,
exactly.
I mean, it's here to stay. And the only problem being with miking up, obviously, as you know, is that IFAB rules don't allow it. So
yes, I do know. Yeah.
So. Okay, so my next question, Jonathan, is Bernardo Silva's ban. Was it fair, the one-match ban?
Look, I think it was. I mean, it's the smallest ban they could have given. I think it's in recognition of the fact they had to do something. They couldn't let it pass. But it's also, the small size of the ban is recognition that, we don't really think there's an issue with Bernardo in more terms other than the fact he's just been a bit naive and made the kind of mistake a young footballer makes. But I think the reason he had to get banned is he's not on trial, or it shouldn't be seen that this is a judgment about whether he's racist or not. It's about whether the message that he posted had the capacity, the potential to cause offence along racial lines, and clearly I would say it did because of the image. And whether he was innocent or naive in posting it isn't actually relevant. I think the only way that we can kind of stamp out racism is to just act on strict liability almost. That you know, it's the message, not the person, that's being judged here. Yeah, and you know, while he posted it to a friend and meant it as a joke, and it seemed to be accepted as a joke, if you allow that sort of imagery to be, you know, publicly posted by footballers, what if the next guy isn't as nice a guy as Bernardo, isn't doing it for the same reasons, and is able to post something like that and say, well, Bernardo wasn't publicly punished for posting the same thing. I think that's where it lies. I mean, the other thing that always struck me from the start was he's having a joke with his pal, of course, but you know, why share it to millions of people? That's just naive, because clearly not all of the people who see it are going to think it's a joke. So I just think young players have made these kind of mistakes before and learn from the experience. I hope he learns from it. But you know, as I say, it's the smallest ban, I suppose, they could have given him, which is recognition of the fact that, you know, it's a one-off.
I mean, like I've said to you before, I posted within 15 minutes of that tweet coming out, and I thought I posted below it saying it was naive, and it wasn't about the fact of the content of the tweet. It was just where I thought it was going to end up because of how people would perceive it. But I mean, my only other thought on the Bernardo Silva thing, and I'm just having to think about it, is, you know, the FA have dealt with this, the Premier League have dealt with this, and what on the other flip side of that, very quickly, is, well, what happened to Wayne Hennessy? The way that was treated.
I know.
People will argue, you know, City fans or football fans in general will argue and say, well, hold on a minute, Wayne Hennessy here has clearly made a Nazi salute, and he's trying to come away with, I was trying to get a waiter and I was trying to get the attention of this, and the FA are going, well, we can't really prove it, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, what are your thoughts on very quickly, between the two of the incidents?
No, I mean, look, that's a very valid thing, and I suppose the whole Bernardo thing, even I think it's probably the right decision, it's followed the same pattern as they all follow, and it's the process is just never satisfying for fans, because we never really know what the FA's thinking is. It's never really seems a clear process where it's explained to people. And I don't think anyone ever really learns anything from these judgments either. And of course, they always appear to be inconsistent. And we can go back from, you know, I think maybe the whole thing that set the ball rolling was Suarez Evra on in terms of the FA making lots of judgments about racism. Then you had John Terry, then you had other things, and they've never been able to establish a clear, consistent line that we can all understand. And, you know, you've just given two contrasting examples. You know, we're not any further forward.
So my question is, just finally, do you think the FA need to have, working with, I don't know, Kick It Out campaign and whatever, do you think that they should have some absolutely clear guidelines for footballers and social media?
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, look, I think there is a clear guideline that Bernardo contravened. I think it's more that the judgment process has to be really clear, and we almost need to know, like in a court of law, what the penalties are for doing certain things, so that everyone can understand. All right, well, if you do that, you get this punishment. If you do that, you get punishment. And it always seems that they just kind of make it up as they go along.
Well, that was my point. Should the FA have some clear guidelines for footballers in particular, to say, you post something like this, like an education program that rolls out through the academies, through to the professionals and everything else, say, you post something like this. Let's say you use the Bernardo Silva one, for example. This clearly wasn't a racist intent, but you do something like this, it's going to upset a lot of people. And you know, somebody being upset is only how they perceive it, and how, you know, whether it upsets them personally. But do you think the FA should be doing more to to roll out a clear sort of guidelines or structures on social media?
Well, yeah. I mean, I tweeted at the time that, pretty much what I've just said, that yes, look, I think he has to be punished. But actually, the best thing that could have come out of it would have been, not a punishment as such necessarily, but if Bernardo could then go and explain just be asked to go and explain to young footballers, whether in the City Academy or other forums, just go and explain to young footballers the mistake you've made here. Warn them about the dangers of social media. Warn them about the need to be, kind of really conscious about the whole issue of racism and see the potential dangers. If someone of his stature and his intelligence, if he could have been asked to go and explain and then therefore improve football, that would have been a much better outcome than just hit him with a ban. Everyone kind of like, people are either happy or unhappy, and nobody learns anything.
Well, I mean, I know this part of his fine, his punishment is a re-education program. I'd like to see a little bit of consistency with that when you've got the likes of Troy Deeney whiting up as a clown and things like that. And it's like, well, hold on a minute, if a white player blacked up and things like that, it would be all over social media and it would be an outrage. But he can put white makeup on his face and white up, and so this is where I think the FA falls down, is that there's no consistency and it is very subjective as to does it offend you or doesn't it? But anyway, thanks for that answer, Johnny. Moving on to the last two questions. One, very quickly, CAS, UEFA on Man City. Well, as you know, it's just come out that CAS have denied the appeal by Manchester City over the UEFA adjudicatory chambers, investigations into Manchester City or in the investigatory chamber, etc., etc. But are you surprised that the day after the media released the fact that UEFA might just give City a ban or might not put any sanctions on them with regards to a Champions League ban, they might get a fine, that CAS suddenly come out and say that, well, this is ridiculous, we can't hear this because the adjudicatory chamber hasn't finished their investigation? I mean, it's like, why wait 5 months to suddenly come out and tell us this? Because I think every City fan knew that CAS were never going to do anything about this because the investigation processes hadn't run its course.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was talking about the FA being unsatisfactory in being kind of closed off and we don't understand what's going on. And this has been more so than anything else. I do not understand the CAS. Well, I understand the process, but I don't understand exactly what UEFA have been looking at and exactly what CAS have been judging on, because nobody's told us. And I don't see why this can't just be clear and open and a bit swifter, and then we can all move on. Because actually, I think this issue's now been here for a couple of years. I was on your channel talking about the football leaks all that time ago, and I understand, especially with the power of lawyers at City have got, that the arguments are going to get very, very complicated, but it's just part of a football culture of, it's almost like, we're the authorities, just it's all behind closed doors. We're not really going to tell you what's decided. We're just going to tell you what the punishment is. And it's another thing where whatever happens at the end of all of this, I don't think one side's going to be, in fact, I think everyone's going to be a little bit dissatisfied the way it's gone. So
if I said to you now, what do you think? And if this is just you having a personal guess,
what do I think will happen?
What do you honestly think will happen to City in the long term? And this could run on for another 12 months. God knows how long.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get a Champions League ban, and I think anything other than I think there might be a fine, but I don't think this is going to lead to the kind of drastic action. I might be wrong though. I might be wrong, but
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's going to end up in a massive thing. And you know, we could then go into other issues like UEFA and PSG and how UEFA seem compromised on this whole issue and a bit uncertain how to proceed.
Yeah.
And then the fact that, you know, there's a tacit admission now really that FFP is dead. You know, it's been said.
Is it? I mean, do you honestly believe
that,
FFP is dead? Do you think it's in its current format?
Yes.
Do you think it's dead?
In its current form, yes, I think it's dead. Whether there's a need for something else, salary cap, whatever it is in football, there might be another discussion to have around that. But I think in the original form it was brought in, I think it's more or less dead, yeah.
Well, that's definitely something that we'll discuss in the future, Jonathan. But moving on to my final couple of points. One is Pep Guardiola. We've got all the German media doing their usual stuff, and we've got his agent meeting with German officials. And blah blah blah. My question to you is this simple, and forget all of the rumor and speculation and everything else. As a journalist, as a chief football writer for the Sunday Times, do you think Pep will see out his remaining contract at Manchester City? Bearing in mind he's got 18 months left, and do you think if he does, will he sign another contract, or is he gone?
Well,
in summer.
What I'll throw in there is he won't break his contract. He never breaks his contract, but I don't know if his contract is a straight 18 months or if there's a break clause at the end of the season. So, there's two different things there.
Yeah.
If there is a break clause, could I see?
All right. Well, let's say there is a break clause at the end of in the summer. If there was a break clause, as it stands right now, do you think Pep Guardiola will leave City in the summer?
Okay, if there's a break clause, the way it's heading, yes, because
really,
yeah, because he does not appear a satisfied man at the moment, and
satisfied with what?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, the officials, obviously, you can see that
officiating, VAR, the Premier League, the way it's just like
yeah,
is it that
he doesn't appear too satisfied with, I guess, the way the media treat Man City, and he doesn't appear too satisfied with the hand he's been dealt in terms of transfers in the squad. Now, I really admire him for, I don't think there's any rift between him and Cheeky, they're so close, and I admire him for not kind of complaining overtly, but he's just said a few things at press conferences that, references to we can't afford this and we can't do this, and there's an odd one after the Villa game where he was asked about Jack Grealish's performance, and he suddenly went off on one about how we can't buy him, and nobody said City were ever going to buy Jack Grealish. It was like he just wanted to make a point about transfers. So
are these type of conversations the ones that obviously we have the embargo that we see on the City website, and then it's down to you guys as journalists that sit with Pep and ask him questions and things. Is this the type of feeling that you're getting from when you've sat down as journalists with Pep after the sort of video embargo and things like that? Is that what you're saying?
It is. It's someone that's not particularly satisfied at the moment, as I said. But I have to stress here that that can change, and that he's clearly a very, as passionate a man, about as intense a man as they come, and it's also to do with results. The performances aren't what he wants. Yeah. Now I could see things improving and him becoming a lot happier and getting his mojo back. So I guess my answer is: are you asking me right now, looking at him, does he look like a man who could go if he had the opportunity to? Yes, but I wouldn't be putting any money on it, because he's quite capable of turning things around, enjoying a good end. His move improving because what's most important to Pep Guardiola is what happens on the football pitch, and it hasn't gone the way he wanted so far. And if that improves, and he feels he's got the team where he wants it, then he'll feel differently. But this is I guess this was a speculative conversation from the start, because I raised this speculative point about the fact there might be a break clause. And look, I shouldn't. I am only speculating. Do I think there is? No, I actually don't. I think there's a possibility that there is, but I don't actually think there is, because I've got no evidence for that. Yeah. So I guess I'm now sorry to kind of go round the houses on this one. I'm just
I mean, we're not trying to put you in a position where. No, I know. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, it's a hypothetical question that if he did have one, and he might not, but if he did,
look, I'm trying to be as open, as honest as possible, and just say that it's a possibility. I'm looking at it as a journalist. Could that happen?
It's only because there are elements of City fans that actually think Pep might leave in the summer. That's the only reason why I asked the question. I think he'll see out his contract, but I know there are elements of City fans that think, I think this could be his last season. He could leave in the summer.
Well, I'm open-minded to that possibility, but as I said, at the start of this, as I said, he's not a man that breaks contracts, so he would only do it if, they asked him to leave, which you can't see happening, or if there was the opportunity, the possibility to leave, but only if he gets to the summer and he is still in this kind of weird place that he is at the moment. But if there isn't a clause, and as I said, there's no evidence that I've got that there is, then he'll see it out, because that's what he does. And also, he clearly would want to leave City in a good place, because he leaves clubs in a good place.
Absolutely. Well, listen, just one quick thought, because this obviously is news that broke today, and that was obviously the phenomenal figures that City have posted, since the inception of the Sheikh Mansour era. And after 11 years, we've posted revenues of £535 million, and the rumours are, United potentially next season could with losses post of 560. City with the new Puma deal are saying that they could be in the region of 560 to 580 million pounds, and where you think our turnover back in 2007, 2008 was 104 million pounds. What does that scream to you as a journalist looking at where City have come from in the 11 years under Sheikh Mansour? Could we, certainly me as City fan, think, God, our turnover could be the same as Manchester United's? I mean, it's phenomenal figures.
Yeah, well, that is an amazing point to reach. I think what it says is that City are here to stay as a global football force. They're a global football club now, and you can argue about the origins of some of the sponsorship deals, blah blah blah. They're all old arguments. I think what you can say is that however the process started, whatever deals were there at the start, City now have a life of their own. Part of it is City are so unbelievably successful, and they get incredible income simply by going as far as they do every year in the Champions League and winning the Premier League. That's one primary source of the income, and then sponsors want to work with them. But the prize money itself is huge. City are also part of this global football group, which is a very clever piece of sort of corporate engineering. And the thing I've always thought about City, and we've talked about this before, Andy, I've always tried to separate it from the moral arguments that people want to raise. If you take that away, and let's just take that away, in football terms and in business terms, you're looking at excellence. You're looking at an unbelievably well engineered football entity and business entity, and that's City are here to stay. I really do think City are here to stay, and we now have a Premier League that's kind of split off into the big 5 or 6, and I think those big 5, they might get joined by other clubs, but I can't see any of those clubs dropping out of that big elite.
Right, well listen, I know that you're a very busy man. I do want to say, Jonathan, and absolutely, I do really appreciate you coming on these podcasts and videos that you do with Man City Fan TV. Yeah, listen, enjoy your trip, buddy.
Thanks, Andy.
I just
Andy.
want to say a massive thank you to Jonathan Northcroft, chief football writer for the Sunday Times, for coming on and chatting with me and being honest and open like he always is. I love having him on because he does give you a very balanced view. So, Jonathan, have a safe trip, mate.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, pleasure, and all the best.
Thank you. Listen, this is Andy from Man City Fan TV. I'm with Jonathan Northcroft, the chief football writer for the Sunday Times. That's a quick, short, sort of 5-6 questions, and Jonathan's given us some absolutely amazing insight there from a journalist point of view. But take care, and this is Andy from Man City Fan TV. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell icon, and we'll see you soon.